We all know Denver is the mile-high city, but is a mile really that high? But is that enough to make it the tallest city in the US? No, not even close. There are still two capital cities at a higher elevation than Denver. It's true that there are no cities in the US at a higher elevation and a higher population than Denver, but there are still a few major cities that stand more than a mile high. Before we start, I do want to point out the geography of Denver itself. This is important since many of the cities that are at a higher elevation than Denver are Denver's suburbs. Almost all of Denver's suburbs are at a higher elevation than Denver, since Denver is located in the Platte River Valley. The most prominent suburbs above 1 mile high are Lakewood with 156,000 people at 5,500 feet, Aurora with 389,000 people at 5,400 feet, Centennial with 107,000 people at 5,830 feet, Thornton with 142,000 people at 5,350 feet, and Arvada with 126,000 people at 5,520 feet. Many other cities at higher elevation than Denver are also in Colorado, such as Boulder with 104,000 people at 5,430 feet. However, none of those Denver area cities get to 6,000 feet or more. The only big one that does is Castle Rock with 75,000 people at 6,240 feet. But now it's time to address the elephant in the room, Colorado Springs. 480,000 people in the city and 740,000 people in the metro area. City known for Pikes Peak stands at over 6,000 feet and at 6,035 feet in elevation, the highest of any US city over 100,000 people. Now we need to go a bit higher. Now we visit Cheyenne, the capital of Wyoming. At 6,070 feet in elevation, you might think it would be the state capital with the highest elevation, but it's actually second. Before I reveal what the highest state capital is, there are a few more high elevation cities I need to point out. First is Albuquerque, which is barely higher than Denver at 5,310 feet. It stands at 562,000 people, which makes it the most populated city that's above 5,300 feet. Albuquerque's suburb of Rio Rancho sits at an elevation of 5,500 feet, with a population of 109,000 people. Other cities just over a mile high include Prescott, Arizona, 5,320 feet of elevation and 47,000 people, Butte, Montana, 5,540 feet and 35,000 people, Farmington, New Mexico, with 46,000 people at 5,470 feet, and Cedar City, Utah, with 37,000 people at 5,850 feet. Now we go on to our last two cities. These are the highest of high, both above 6,900 feet
Nice.
in elevation. First of the two is Flagstaff, Arizona, at 6,920 feet of elevation. At the base of the San Francisco Mountains, Flagstaff is the second highest large city in the U.S., currently at 77,000 people, has a thriving tourism scene thanks to the mountains as well as the Grand Canyon to the north. Due to this elevation, it gets very cold during the winter, averaging 3 days per year of sub-zero temperatures, despite it being in a state known for heat. Another temperature factoid is that despite being only 150 miles away from Phoenix, Flagstaff has never reached 100 degrees in its history. The record high here is only 97 degrees. At this elevation, Flagstaff is higher than the entirety of 35 states. Now we reach the final boss of high elevation cities, the highest elevated capital city in this country. It's none other than Santa Fe, New Mexico, at an impressive 7,010 feet. The New Mexican capital is not only the highest elevated capital in the US or the highest elevated large city, it's the highest elevation of any city over 25,000 people. An interesting fact about Santa Fe is that the steps to the Capitol building are at exactly 7,000 feet of elevation, much like how the steps to the Colorado Capitol building are at exactly a mile high. Even though there are many large cities with a higher elevation than Denver, Denver is still by far the highest elevation of a major city. The closest you can get is Salt Lake City. In all, Denver may be a mile high, but there are many cities in the US that are even higher. If you've enjoyed this video, do not forget to subscribe. And if you want to learn about cities that are larger than you think, then click on this video. And if for whatever reason you're still watching, here's a secret. I hate pickles.